Preferences, audio.
Share computer sound.
God, I worked for Google and I can't.
What up, buttons? It's your boys, Adam Stark.
And Alan Roper.
And we are here to ask the fun question of what the sidechain do those buttons do? On today's episode, we're going to be talking about sidechain compression. Woo!
Ducking.
Whoa, bobbing and weaving.
Like Muhammad Ali and him.
But first, we need to tell our viewers and our listeners one special thing. What is that, Alan?
Guys and girls, I gotta tell you this. He says it's special. I think it's just normal, but we need you to smash that like button.
Do it
and subscribe to the podcast. We're on multiple platforms now, and we'd love to have you. If you have questions, if you have any feedback, any topic ideas, hit us with it. We want all the feedback we can get. Criticism, it's all good. Just shoot it to us, and
And don't forget to check out our new Patreon page. We've got a bunch of fun little Patreon tier levels out there now. So if you guys would like to help out, we also have our Patreon set up, and you can support this channel by doing so.
The more levels of tiers you go up, the less level of tears that come down our faces. You know what I mean? And that's how I do that, and that's what I did there, and that was like pretty much like sidechain, sort of, but not really at all.
Somehow. We're going to kind of drop the old one of our little update, unless you guys want to hear more about it, but we don't have too much going on to talk about in our own personal lives besides, I don't know, not much. So we're going to nix those, and we're going to start two new segments here, and our first one is music news. What's new in the music news? Well, guess what? TikTok users, Gen Z TikTok users are trying to cancel Eminem. And it's hilarious. My specific reason why it's hilarious is because, or why I think it's hilarious, is because of the song choice they are using. So apparently this TikToker posted this TikTok. So when the song Rihanna song "Love the Way You Lie," Eminem says those lines of "If you ever try and leave again, I'm gonna tie you to this bed and set this house on fire," and they were just like, "We need to cancel Eminem because of this." And I get where they're coming from, of just in the sense of just like. Maybe they had something traumatic happen to them, or they know people that have, and that's not stuff to fuck around with in that case. But the song choice is not only about that purposefully because of Rihanna's whole thing that she was going through at the time because of abuse, but that is like one of Eminem's tamest fucking songs he has ever done.
Definitely.
So I don't get it. I don't personally get it. I'm also a millennial. I grew up with Eminem. I mean, both of us did. I don't know. What's your
definitely
thoughts on
don't
it?
consider myself a millennial, maybe by the years, but I'm also 50 in my head because everything I've been through. Even though I'm not 50, I'm 38. Fair. 2 days ago.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you. From when this is recorded, and yours is coming up in like 2 or 3 days too. So happy early birthday to you.
Oh yeah, well, geez, yeah, it's coming up very soon.
5 days. My bad. I told on you.
Oh.
So, yeah. My whole thing with the cancel culture, man, that's delicate. There's a lot of good perspective behind some of it, and then there's a lot of just ridiculous and unrealistic expectations coming out of it. And in regards to music and pop culture and things like that, and comedians, and there's always a time and a place for someone that's a role model, or that's getting money, or that's getting fame, and they do something so out of pocket or whatever that people probably shouldn't be paying them money and looking up to them and stuff. So I get it from that point of view.
Yeah.
But also, I know a lot of people who've done one wrong thing in their life and changed it, and they're not a piece of shit, and they, people are human, and they do things and say things, or sometimes really reprehensible things that are really hard to forgive.
Yeah.
But lyrics aren't one of them. And when it comes to lyrics, man.
Well, lyrics, art, like art stuff in general, a creation of something is, I don't know. I mean, it's a touchy subject. It's hard to justify in any direction.
This is our own point of view, by the way.
By the way, this is just how us trying to process it, of understanding this kind of stuff, or I wouldn't say even justifying not doing it, but just kind of the way that we have experienced it or grown up and seen how all those kind of work together is just it's just art. It's an art form. It's lyrics. It's telling a story of whether it's good or bad or anything like that. I mean, the only reason that we know about any of these bad things that have happened to other people is because you told a story about it. And
right.
Whether you like, when you tell a story, you don't if you tell a story, whether it's a fake story or a true story, you're just sharing information. You're not you're just doing this. And so how can you cancel something for something fictional, but also something that is, I don't know.
Well, I know what you're saying, and like it's funny because it's perfect for Eminem to be the topic of that, because this dude in the 90s, when he came out, he just went so left and against the grain, and it made all kinds of people turn heads. And I mean, that's primarily why he is who he is like he said, I'm not gonna cater to this bullshit. I'm gonna just do what I do. I'm gonna write, I'm gonna create, I'm gonna just be me lyrically. Now, Eminem and Marshall Mathers are not the same thing. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe as he's gotten older, like more of who he is coming onto the tracks. But like historically, he just writes. He's got that alter ego, that Slim Shady. I mean, he's just writing. And if you could say something that turns heads, like at that time specifically in the late 90s, when awareness wasn't what it is now, that was like the straw that broke the camel's back or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Now the awareness, not because of that specifically, but with music, like he's famous for doing that stuff. And now you want to hit him at 30 years in the
30
game
years later.
And you, for the most ridiculous line that is obviously not directly anything specific, it's probably just creation, but it has to do with like the collaboration and the collaborators and whatever. I don't know their process or whatever, and I don't know the backstory if it has anything to do with what you were saying. Maybe it does, but I write lyrics. I've been writing lyrics since 2003, and I've said some stuff that is ridiculous, and I mean nothing quite like Eminem. Not even lyrical prowess, but I'm very proud of what I can do, but that's a different level. And, I don't ever think that anyone's ever going to, well, if I made enough waves, maybe, but I don't think anyone's going to look at that and go, oh, that he said in that song is exactly who he is.
Right.
Like that doesn't, and because of people like Eminem and there was other people obviously before him, but because of that, that's more commonly understood. So it's so weird that the newest generation that is, maybe didn't grow up in the time that we did, or like catch the end of the beginning of that or whatever, that maybe now they just hear one thing and it just take to social media and it turns into this or that or whatever. And there's a lot of good causes out there and a lot of people that are getting canceled for some real terrible things. And that's,
there's people that are getting canceled
that's all well
for
and
some
good.
Damn good reasons.
Right. But I mean, if you're going to, that's like they'd be like the criminal who did something wrong for like 25 years, and then one day he jaywalked and got locked up for that, and you're like, for that,
right?
Or something. Not to say he's a criminal, because I'm not talking about.
I mean,
Eminem,
Al Capone got taxes.
Same thing, yeah. But that's but that's a real life example of like
they're canceling Al Capone.
It's just an analogy, but yeah. So that's weird, man. I don't know how to feel about it. My family watches this.
Yeah, so that happened, and people are talking about it, and we're talking about it, and we just kind of wanted to explain why that is a big thing right now, is because it started on TikTok and it kind of grew from there. And there's people on both sides who are saying there's things, and especially the people that grew up with Eminem are just kind of snickering, going, I mean, yeah, that's not the worst thing he's done.
I mean,
if you're gonna cancel him for something worse than that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, the Slim Shady LP was way more violent than anything in that song.
Oh yeah,
Marshall Mathers LP, and those are iconic to me, and they made me a better lyricist and made me understand hip hop more, and like it brought more awareness to like creativity for me as a writer. So
that's the big news for this week, I guess.
That's the big news.
So let's jump into the pick of the week. This week I picked Mike Tompkin, who's a very talented vocal artist who does remixes and all sorts of stuff. He makes songs, basically kind of he beatboxes and sings, but he does live. He records it all down and does his own loops for a bunch of stuff. This one currently is just an amusing side one that I found, but you should definitely check out his mashups and his channel, because he's a very talented vocalist.
Chicken nuggets is like my family.
He only likes chicken nuggets, chicken nuggets, chicken nuggets, chicken nuggets, chicken nuggets, chicken nuggets, chicken nuggets.
And they do. And they do. And they do.
All I want is chicken nuggets tonight. All I want it, all I want it, all I want it.
Looking for chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets. I really do like chicken nuggets. I really do like chicken nuggets.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I really. He does a ton of stuff, and that one's a little bit of an older one from back in the day, like before you could link a bunch of things together. I think those were the old what was it, the APK 40s.
APC 40s.
Oh yeah, APC 40s, and
People
he had
still love
two
that. It still works
Macintoshes
great.
set up on there because you couldn't really link a bunch of stuff together a few years ago.
Right. That this is no shade or anything, but that kind of reminded me of an MIA song.
Oh
That
yeah,
style, and there's like the synthy sound, and like this. I don't know, like towards the end, like a minute and some change into it, I was just like, man, this is just so MIA to me.
that's actually a really good throwback too. I haven't listened
She's
to
dope.
some MIA in a long time. I love her.
Oh,
stuff.
she's got new stuff. She put out stuff not that long ago.
Nice.
Like a year,
That
maybe
yeah,
a year?
but was that click
paper planes? song?
paper airplanes or paper planes, yeah. That one's like one where she blew up all over the place back to, I want to say 2007, 8, somewhere around there.
2000 in February.
Says 2000 and I'll put it up here. But yeah, yeah, really cool stuff. Mike Tompkin. We'll have his stuff down in the description, of course. And now let's reach out and bring in our guest.
All right, so last week we talked about a few things, and I mentioned a character that like influenced me into getting into music. That character is Ryan Cleveland, who we have as our first guest on the Buttons podcast.
I thought you were going to say Bob Saget.
No, but that's you though. Ryan, how you doing, man? Good to have you on.
I'm great. How are you guys?
Fantastic.
Doing good.
You look fantastic.
Why, thank you. You look
Appreciate
good
Not.
too.
I mean that like in a, you know, you look good.
Professional manner. I got you.
Professional.
Sure.
So
Cool.
Ryan here is going to be talking to us about sidechain, going to take us down that fun road. As if you don't know what sidechain is, well, you're definitely going to learn about it today because we're going to go through some of the ins and outs of where to use it, maybe where not to use it, some good ideas, but really just kind of what it's used for and the kind of structure for it. Alan, I do believe that you said you had some little historic tidbits you wanted to throw in there.
Yes.
Before
the
we
boring
jump
history.
in. So let's break down the boring history, and then we'll let Ryan take over here.
Well, I'm excited for what Ryan has prepared. So just real quick, like sidechain compression. It was a lot of people think Daft Punk created it. They definitely made use of it the most, and it became like the French touch, and the whole scene was made popular during that time. And they're retiring now, so they made something really popular that we all use today. It's a staple of music production, but it actually started in 1930s. This film engineer, this audio engineer for film, his name was like Douglas Shearer, I believe, and he was trying to get the popping sounds out of film audio, like the S's and the the P and the T and all the sharp sounds. And in effect, what he did was kind of create the beginning of sidechain compression. He actually created the de-esser, which we all know is used for that, like a digital pop filter, I guess. And that's kind of where sidechain compression began, at least based on my research, because I wasn't there. But later in the 60s,
Oh, Alan, you weren't there.
I mean, I'm getting that age, but no. So in the 60s, the Beatles, I mean, there's many people have used it, but like famously, like the Beatles used it and it like blew away all these, fans that they had, just the way that it sounded. They used it a little bit. And then as music progressed in the 80s and on, electronic music, it became, like I said, a staple that now we all use today as much as, you're going to use a hi-hat in electronic music, you're going to use sidechain compression. I mean, I guess depending on genre, but overall, I don't know a track that I've made recently that doesn't have sidechain, at least with the kick or bass. So that's the simple history of it. And, I'm going to let Ryan take over now because what he has is really interesting.
Yeah. Sidechain compression has been used historically for electronic music. I think that we would all agree.
Yeah.
Famously, yeah.
So what is it? It means you get an effect of you moving in and out of the music. It draws you in, it sucks you out, it pulls you back. How and why does that work?
That is the question.
Those are the questions.
Question.
What those buttons do.
That's why we brought you in. I thought you knew.
We all know.
I'll show you the math for why it works. I mean, most people don't care about the math. I care about the math, but also I care about how it's used and how it's used in hip hop, how it's used in electronic music, and how it's used in theatrical. I mean, Hans Zimmerman uses sidechain compression.
Yeah, wow.
So, I mean, this is like a kind of a ubiquitous sort of method. Imagine a signal. If I just press a button and there is a sine wave and it's just bing, bing, and then I introduce a secondary signal to push down the initial signal. That's all sidechain is. So let me give an example. So on this, I have a synth. Initial signal. Now I'm going to introduce, and on this initial signal, I have a compressor, and there's this little button. Remember, we're using Ableton. If I sidechain it and connect it to another signal, which it's just a kick, essentially. So, but I want to get an effect out of it, like sidechain. We're going to silent the kick because the kick is acting as the secondary signal that pushes that initial waveform down.
So it's ducking.
It's ducking.
You can hear it in the synth.
So, initial signal, secondary signal that's pushing that initial signal down, and it gives this pumping effect, and it draws you into the music. Boring.
So that's that without the sidechain
Yeah,
one.
exactly. So it's just.
So if you want to use that effect, you put it on the synth like you did. You don't put it on the kick. That's backwards.
You don't put it on the kick. Yeah. So
you're sidechaining to the kick from the instrument.
Exactly.
Okay.
And to clarify for our viewers, that input sound can come from anywhere. What's being used?
Really can.
Yeah, what's being used right now for the example of that pumping sound is that taking either a whatever kick that you're using, or taking a silent kick, which I do a lot as well. Especially if you're not doing 4 on the floor, like if you've got a break beat,
right,
but you want a 4 on the floor pumping sound, that doom doom doom, like that bass coming in, then that's where you bring in this silent. You set up a kick that's got a good that gives you a good ducking sound, and then you just silent it. I think a good coverage for like we hear that side chaining used a lot, especially like we said, 4 on the floor stuff. You get that it's to help either your bass synths or your other synths kind of pump with it. So when your kick comes in, it ducks. When your kick comes in, everything else ducks down, and then you get this nice, like, and that's that draw in that you were talking about, and then it just like pumps you back up when all the other stuff comes back in. So you get that doom, doom, like you get that, like you want to pump your fist with it. You're just like, yeah. So you get that. But yeah, it's used everywhere. From, it's not just used for that pumping sound, it's used from like you were saying, with rock sounds to rap sounds, anything like that. Vocals,
theatrical.
Yeah, you can do the theatrical part where you're really gonna hear it, like you're gonna know that it's there. A big part of it that you will hear, but you won't think, oh, that's compressed, is on vocals. Is you'll take and sidechain a vocal, like on your instrumental track. You take your entire instrumental, you put your vocals on it, especially when you want nice, sharp, well pronounced things, and you duck it. Your threshold's not too high, so you obviously notice, but it ducks your main instrumental just under your vocals, so your vocals actually help sit on top of your instrumentals, so they're clear. Rap especially will do lyrics. That's a great place to use it. Just because usually, again, heavy, your rap and hip hop songs are going to have that heavy bass, and so to cut through all that or any loud sounds, and you get any of those lyrical stuff being able to cut through and being able to be heard. I've literally done that on a couple of tracks. Somebody will bring a track in and they'll be like, and they'll
Like,
have
are you talking about when you master?
Well, yeah, right before you even do the mastering is when you're leveling things out, is when you bring that track in, is where you just, you're doing vocals over it, is taking the instrumental and just having it its own channel, and then that's where you put your sidechain on, and then you sidechain it to your vocal group, or your vocals that you want to poke out above the thing.
I think part of, and just to use an example again, Flume, he'll put sidechains on his master,
Mm-hmm.
and then he'll start sidechaining everything.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's where it gets into the stylistic of like a choice of it brings a different artistry
it's experimental
to it. Yeah.
Like Flying Lotus was doing that way back in the day. Even like Jay Dilla hip hop beats in the early 2000s. He didn't even really know. I don't know. Maybe he did know, but like he wasn't trying to sidechain like we do it. But like you could tell in the vocal samples and stuff. It's just like so smooth to listen to his beats. No one can do what he did for some reason. Rest in peace to Jay Dilla, man. He left us too soon.
And I'll get links from everybody. We'll put links down in the description of some good examples of the really stylistic sidechain compressions, some stuff where it's just the vocals, or just little pieces where little things. We'll put a bunch of lists in the description on both the podcast and the YouTube, so you guys can hear those examples of kind of what it's used for, and we'll list it out for you to be like, the vocals are sidechained on this, or this is the stylistic one that you can really hear.
And again, I didn't want to just use like one instrument as an example, because you can do this on the master, you can do this with vocals, you can do this with anything that you can think of. Any track that you've made, you can use it very, very, very efficiently, stylistically, experimentally.
Yeah,
pretty good.
What's and I will probably, I think one interesting thing that we can that you can also do, and a good way to kind of like wrap your head around what the sidechain compression is actually doing is, because there's other plugins that do this. I don't know the names of them off the top of my head, but there are specific ones that where you basically fake a sidechain, where it's just a compression on your like a filter compression, or you can just use your filters. But basically you take it's auto filter is a good example. If you take an auto filter and you just take the low end of it and you set it to where it's again, like I think we were saying the other day, is you basically take the 100 to 140, bring it out there, and then you turn the auto on. Let it pulse.
Your episode on bass.
Yeah, exactly. You let that lower end like pulse, and you'll get that kind of, and you can do that anywhere in there, but it's specifically for your low ends where you get that boom, 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 boom.
Compression is dangerous. I'm gonna say it's so delicate.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people overdo it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's actually what I was going to say, is another way to get that ducking effect without doing sidechain compression with vocals, particularly, is if you over compress vocals and then put some regular uncompressed stuff around it, you'll get the feeling of it because of the over compression.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just another, way that it, compression affects that same thing without it being like specifically sidechain, but it's just a side effect of that
and we'll probably do some more. I think actually would be good to do a whole thing on what how the compressors actually really work, but
Yeah.
kind of cutting into that as well, just to give a quick example, is basically a compressor is going to equalize your loudest and your lowest sounds so that they're pushed together. And that's why, like what Alan was saying, is it can be really dangerous to do that, because there's only a certain amount that you can squash your very louds and bring up your very lows to where you're just getting nothing but distortion of it. And that's a stylistic choice. I know a guy who he released a whole sample pack of where he just has all these gritty like kicks and bass sounds, where that's all he did. He just compression on compression on compression, and then he'd resample it and then compress it again, and he got some like,
how did it sound?
Like nasty. There's like
I mean, a compressor's number one job is to make a sound quieter. That's its number one thing.
Well, it's to bring up lower sounds and bring down higher sounds for it. Yeah, it equalizes them out. So if you have and that's why putting them on your masters or other things like that is really good.
Well, I'm just saying compressors are delicate.
Yeah.
I've known really talented producers, and when they go to export, the dither is off, or they say the dither is off, and I'm like, no, you compressed the shit out of that, and it didn't work.
Yeah. That
Just,
fun fact that we'll have to touch on later too is if you guys want to hear about dithers, let us know, because that's a very good subject to talk about too. But we won't get into that right now.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, I mean, it's a delicate dance, and I mean, for most people, I think you got to experiment.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong. I don't think that any artist,
as long as that's what you were going for, there's no wrong way to do it.
Yeah. but sometimes it makes you or breaks you.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for teaching us about sidechain. We could also, what we could do too is, if you want to have people know about your music and stuff, we can put them in the show notes.
Cool.
If you got some links, some SoundCloud links or whatever you have, just put them in the show notes. And
I sent a couple over, I think yesterday. I have like a dozen other tracks that I haven't released, and they're, again, experimental.
Yeah.
I go by BELAY. And I like educating people on music, sound design, and composition.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, thank you for joining us and doing that. I really appreciate it.
I thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Definitely have you back on later. If you have something else you'd like to cover, or if we get questions, and I know that's something that I know how you produce, so we can have you back on later.
Cool. I would appreciate it a lot.
So yeah, in closing, I think it's one of those. It's sidechain compression in and of itself. It's one of those things that you definitely got to play around with to get to know. There are techniques in and of itself that you can modify them with different types of compressors and different types of sidechains, because sidechain isn't just limited to compression, but sidechain compression is kind of that main thing that we highlighted today. So yeah, play around with it, have fun with it. We'll keep diving into more and more things as each episode comes around. So thank you for joining us, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell if you're on YouTube. If you're listening to us on Anchor.fm or any other podcast thing, don't forget to just follow us and add us to your favorites. And we'll be here every single week, released on Wednesday mornings. And we're going to keep asking those questions of what those buttons
do. 85%. We're getting there.
Got the bass.